Hi. If you're a Galaxy Note fan like me, you went out and bought a Note 8 and put a big SD card in it. I've been shooting some 4K video and I wanted to show you what I found, and hopefully this will help people in making choices when they shoot video, and especially in 4K. This is my test of the Samsung Galaxy Note 8. I noticed some jerkiness in my video, especially at 4K. So I decided to switch from the SD card memory, which you're seeing now, to the internal card memory and seeing if the write speed made a big difference. And I think you can see from this it does make a difference. And so here's the internal memory speed, and if you look at the Ivy, you can kind of tell the difference. So I'm going to do another side-by-side comparison here and try that, and hopefully you can see the difference. So here's my side-by-side comparison. I think if you look at the middle to bottom part of the Ivy, you'll notice that the internal memory is a lot smoother than the SD card. So I'm going to follow this up with some testing on the phone itself, doing some speed testing. So this is the same clip slowed down to half speed, and if you look at the details of the leaves in the Ivy, I think you'll notice that it's more clear on the internal memory side than on the SD card memory side. In God we trust, all others bring data. Here's a test I ran on the phone itself. As part of my Note 8, I bought the Evo Select, which it shows right here has 100 megabit per second read, 90 megabit per second write. So I said, oh well, that's all I need. You know, it's really good. And then I watched a couple of YouTube videos on some Android benchmarks, and there's a program here called Android Bench. And so I ran this on the internal memory, and I got pretty amazing read and write speed. So you can see here 257 read, 168 megabit per second write. So that's, you know, SSD quality. So then if I go back in here and change the test protocol to the SD card, you will see, if you run the results here, I'm just going to run it on the SD card, Microbench. It takes a while. In fact, it takes a lot longer than the internal memory. Surprise, surprise. So initializing files, doing your read and write tests. So anyway, this is a free benchmark. I saw it on another YouTube video. Seems to do the trick here. And it may not be perfect, but for a relative rating, I'm sure it's fine. There's my sequential reading, sequential writing. And if you'd seen the internal one, it was just zip, zip, zip. And we're just about done with the third test here. See the results, and I'll show you the history here in a second too. Submit these to the website. Yeah, fine. Transmission complete. Okay, so as you can see here, I'm getting about 30 megabyte sequential write, which is not really fast enough for 4K video recording. I think you want a minimum of probably 60. You know, and of course people are buying 90 megabyte cards for 4K. If I look at the history here, so there was a micro test. So this is the internal 168 sequential read, 172 write. There's another one on the internal. Another one on the internal. There's the original one I did on the SD card. 62 sequential read, 30 write, so it's pretty consistent. Anyway, so what's my takeaway on this? My takeaway is that the card reader on the Galaxy Note 8 can't match the actual cards you put in it, so it doesn't make any difference if you buy a super fast card. It's not really going to work any better than a slower card. And for 4K video, in my experience, it's just too jerky if you've got a lot of movement or panning in your shot, and you might as well use the internal memory and maybe copy the video to your SD card to conserve on space. So to finish up, one last note: I did not have any of these problems when shooting 1080p 60 frame per second on the SD card. So please leave your comments and thoughts below. Hopefully you learned something from this, and thank you for watching.